G'day guys, welcome to this episode of Hanging with the Heathens. Today we're talking about our favourite Havamal stanzas. We're going to read them out, each go around, talk about them, what they mean to us, stuff like that. So, hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. Who wants to go first?
My first one. This one I relate to a lot. This is out of the Jackson Crawford's Havamal from the Poetic Edda, and it's stanza 58. Rise early if you want to take another man's property or his light. A sleeping wolf seldom wins a sheep, or a sleeping warrior a victory. For me, I like to look at that stanza as it's more than just having to, the early bird gets the worm. You definitely start stacking your victories when you wake up early and the rest of the world is still sleeping, right? You wake up at 4, 5, 6 a.m. instead of getting up at your 7, 8, 9 a.m. And, you could start your day, start the process, start stacking those victories early on in the day and things like that. It just sets the tone for a more positive day. You're able to accomplish more things in your life, in your day-to-day tasks, stuff like that. So it's definitely a way for me to also look at it as it's just a way to not always procrastinate, not always have to be lazy. You can always keep moving forward. In order to do that, you need to realize that you need to be making these constant rising up early. Like you need to constantly move forward and not take the easy route, not take the slack route, or be lazy or procrastinate. Like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. How about let's do it now? So
Yeah,
that's a big one. I live by it, and I as a trade person, I am forced to have to wake up early anyways. And it's funny when I choose to sleep in, sleeping in is only like an extra hour, and I'm still, as soon as I get up, I start my chores, I start my tasks. I make my bed. So those little things, I start stacking victories early on, and that sets the tone for the day.
yeah, like
Yeah,
the old saying, tomorrow never comes.
Absolutely, right. And you don't know when your last day, right? You don't know when the Norns have weaved that fate into you. So it definitely always keep focusing on keeping busy, right?
well, and that's what I was gonna say too. Like how you pointed out, like don't procrastinate. Like get something done because everybody's been in that situation where it's like, all right, hey, this is due, or you got to do something and you've got whatever 2 weeks to complete it. So you're like, oh, I've got all the time in the world, and then either you wake up one morning and you're like, shit, that's due tomorrow, or I have to complete this by tomorrow, and I haven't done it, or it's like, all right, I got all this time, and then it's like another thing, another thing, another thing, another thing, and it's like now you're like, oh, like now I got to plan all this stuff out. So beyond just waking up early, just in general, like just when you're posed like a task or something that that you have to complete, or
You're able to take like a hierarchy of like priorities, right? Like what's important and not important and things like that, right? What's urgent and not urgent. And then when you're able to focus that mindset, you're able to use this stanza as well and provide like, okay, well, what tasks and what's the next step? What do I need to do next? So makes life a lot less overwhelming that way too.
I
even tell people like, oh, sorry, Katie.
Oh, sorry. Like Puck was saying, like not procrastinating and stuff like that, but also like getting up early means different things to different people. If you work the night shift, obviously getting up early for you is something different. Some people don't function at 3 o'clock in the morning, but if they get up at 10, but they stay up until fucking midnight or 2 or 3 a.m., like then they're still getting that same amount of time. And then also with procrastination, like you guys have seen me this past week rushing to get all my packing done when I've known for 3-4 months that I'm leaving. Definitely feeling those consequences now, and I wish that like this was wisdom that I had actually taken into consideration when I was actually following through.
Yeah, And you know,
Not
and this
really.
stanza definitely rewards you tenfold for
Well,
it.
that's why I tell people. I
Um,
tell people all the time. Oh shit! Go ahead, Joey.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I tell people all the time, and like it might be a kind of a fucked up way to look at the stanza, but like tell people all the time, like, dude, I'm so lazy. I love to be lazy. That's why I'm a hard worker, and people don't understand it. And I'm like, the faster I get the job done and get it done right, the more time I can just go fuck off and do whatever the fuck I want to do
Hmm.
because now my task is complete.
100%. 100%.
Like,
Yeah, so me
Yeah.
personally
And
too.
for the record, though, when I say I wake up early, okay, yeah, it's true. I do wake up at 4 a.m., but that's only because I have to because of work.
Mm.
But if I don't have to, I'm at home early for me is like 7 o'clock though still. But
yeah, yeah.
either way, you know, either way. I'm definitely not a morning person even when I wake up. Don't I'm not all cheery like I am right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
My
think
next. Shall we move on to the next, or
yeah.
does anybody have anything else
What?
to capitalize on
yeah.
that?
No,
You
that's
want to just
good.
do like a round robin? And
So my first one is actually a set because they all fucking go together. So I use the Bellows translation. And so I'm doing 2 through fucking I turned my wrong page. I'm doing 2 through 4 when thing cooperates and I can find it.
you were, we said
Crap.
one.
Come fight me, bro.
Stanza
Um
16.
so it says, Hail to the giver, a guest has come. Where shall the stranger sit? Swift shall he be who with swords shall try the proof of his might to make. Fire he needs, who with frozen knees has come from the cold without food and clothes. Must the farer have, the man from the mountains come. Water and towels and welcoming speech should he find who comes to the feast. If renown he would get and again be greeted, wisely and well must he act. Um, I've always so when I like the very first time I read the Havamal, those verses those stanzas stuck with me. A large part of it's because of the way I was raised, but I love hosting people. That's one of the like things that I love, and like I like having dinner parties and all that. But I think it's one of the things that kind of like hospitality being such a big thing in our religion is one of the things that carried over from my life as a Christian to my new life, like as a practicing Norse pagan. Because like growing up, the way I was raised was that if someone needs help, like if you have someone who needs to be taken in, like you take them in, you help them, you give them clothes, you give them food, you give them what they need to get back on their feet. And I don't know, just like seeing that same moral that is so strong in me to be able to like see that carried over into this was really helpful for me when I first started out. And I think that
Yeah.
it's like important because I mean, there's been times where like my family's been taken in by other people or where I've needed to take in like coworkers or friends of myself or my significant other. And it's just, I don't know, it's always something that I've enjoyed and I found purpose in doing.
Well, I think a lot of that really goes back to like when you think about when a lot of this was written long ago, like traveling, even just looking at it in the sense of traveling, like traveling was a big ordeal. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna go to the airport, hop on a plane, fly there, hit the mini bar, hit the, what was it, the duty free shop or whatever,
It was
It
like
was like life
dangerous.
altering sometimes. Yeah, like so by the time you got there, you've crossed mountains and oceans and shit, but
You might not make it.
it is one of those, yeah, but it is one of those things where it's like in our faith, community and fellowship is so strong, and in the world today, I think a lot of that is lost because people have become so disconnected from actual community. I mean, if you think about 1,000 years ago living in a little village compared to like now, it's like even a small town, you're like, oh, there's a couple thousand people in a small town, and you're like, oh,
Mm.
shit,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a good indicator of like not forgetting like the people around you, and presenting yourself as a good host, but in turn also presenting yourself as a good guest with somebody.
Yeah, and I think too,
Yes.
back in the day, like back in, Viking era and beyond, it was like a sign of your, it was like your reputation, kind of relied on how good of a host you were, and also like how good of a guest you were, because if you're a shitty guest, and you like eat it, like you eat more than your fill, and you just are loud and boisterous and disrespectful, then like that's gonna go around, and they're gonna be like, oh, Broggy's coming to your house, he was an absolute arsehole when he came to mine. And then like that person's gonna be like, oh, maybe I don't want to like open my doors to Broggy, and then I don't know why I picked the name Broggy.
Sounds good.
And like the same
Sounds
thing,
poetic.
and the same thing too on like the other hand of like, oh, I went to such and such's house, and like he didn't even make us dinner, like then the next person's
Yeah.
like, oh well, I'm not going to be going to any of like Helga's house parties.
Well, it's like I watched The Hobbit the other day, the first Hobbit movie.
Yeah,
All the dwarves fucking show up, right? And the first guy comes in, he's like, "Where's the food?" And he just starts eating, dude's dinner and everything.
yeah,
And then all the dwarves show up, and they just like drain his pantry and destroy his kitchen, But and he's like, "What the fuck?" And then, but at the same time, like, yeah, like shit was wild. It looked like a good time. I'm not gonna lie, but they still like cleaned up after themselves.
yeah,
I guess in a sense, in their minds, respected his hospitality.
yeah,
And he was like very hospitable. Like these guys just came into his house, and he's like, "Okay, well, I guess I guess we're having
They
dinner."
fucked
yeah.
his
He's
shit
like, we're gonna.
up.
He's like, we're gonna like do what we can with what we've got.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the first one that I have is stanza 34. And of course, this is going to be with Jackson Crawford's translation. It's going to be, let's see, it's a long and crooked walk to a bad friend. So flip the page. Even if he lives nearby, but it's an easy road to a good friend, no matter how long the journey. To me, it's simple yet effective. No matter how, if you have somebody good in your life and you keep somebody that is good in your life, it doesn't matter how long the journey is. If they live like across the country, across the world, if that's a good person, that's a good person. You're gonna do what it takes to get to them. Now, I like also how it puts in there, even if they live like next door and it's a terrible person, that's not the person you want to go visit because you're gonna regret going over there.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to, like I said before, it's just cut dry and to the point.
Yeah. So
You need good people in your life.
yeah, 100%. I can actually like attest to this. So like I've got some people who like used to live near me, like back in my old hometown, where it's just like, yeah, they live down the road, but I'm like, ugh, I've got to go and like see this person today, like But on the flip side, a few weeks ago, I went down to Sydney to see Alex, and that's a big journey. Like it took me, I mean, I flew, but it still took me pretty much all day to get there. But for me, the journey was easy because I'm going to see like a really, really good friend.
Well, yeah.
So
It's just like we were just talking about with with Caity's stanzas. It's like the fellowship and the kinship when you actually build those connections with people, it makes maybe doing something that's not so run of the mill and easy for you. It makes it a hell of a lot less, um, I guess, painful or like just inconvenient to you. You know what I mean? Like when somebody you really care about and is a good friend, either A, if you're just going to visit them, or B, like they actually need you, you don't mind going out of your way to help them and, repay the favor or repay that friendship.
yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
All right, let's hear from you, Puck.
Your time.
Flip the page. I'm drinking bourbon, so I'm pretty high class and refined at the moment. Reading my
Are you fancy, man?
Those are the words I would
I'm
describe.
reading my leather-bound translation of the Havamal in the Poetic Edda by Jackson.
All you need now is to be sitting
leather-bound.
next to a fireplace.
Smells of rich mahogany in my small podcasting closet. Anyways, so this is stanza 23, and this stanza is probably something that really in my life is something that really bugged me. And then when I read this stanza, it was like, holy shit! Like it put everything in perspective, and like I'm still kind of bad about it, but I tend to think about the stanza and then I overcome the issue. But anyways, stanza 23 is a fool stays awake all night, worrying about everything. He's fatigued when the morning comes, and his problems remain unsolved. So the big thing to me is not so much worrying. Sometimes I worry, but my big problem is I try to strategize it and I run scenarios in my head. What if, and it's like all night, all night, all night. And it's like, I got the plan on how I'm going to deal with this. But then you're so tired the next day that you're just miserable and your brain is shot and it doesn't work. And you're like, what was my fucking plan again? And one of the big things that has stood out to me of things that I used to like, how we talked about, like in the past, we talked about people needing to practice what they preach. And it was something that I needed to do because, like, okay, so Iraq, Afghanistan, right? You'd get new guys and they'd be so, like, just ready to go. And they'd be ready to go. And they'd just be awake the whole time. And they'd be awake and they'd be on edge. And you're like, look, got it. You're ready to go. But if the time comes and you've been awake for 3 days, like your body is not going to do what it needs to do or what it's trained to do because your brain is going to be blown. Right?
Mm.
So you'd have to tell them, like, dude, like, go to bed. All right? It's important. Go to bed. And I think, the body follows the mind and the mind. And if you're well rested and, you just accept the fact that sometimes, like, oh, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z at these places, but at the time that you're thinking about it, guess what? Those places aren't open, and you can't fucking go do it right now anyways. So basically, all you're doing is fucking yourself because there's nothing you can do about it. So, just go to sleep and wake up with a bright-eyed, bushy-tail fucking go-at-it attitude.
Yeah. Well, the thing with that too is you're not even living in the now. You're living in a made up what if world. Even if you're worrying about paying your bills, having to talk to a friend, having to deal with a confrontation, anything. Okay? Anything in life. It's an endless amount of things that go through people's heads. But the thing is you're the one who's creating all this scenarios in your head. So and you're living a life that isn't existing. So you're stressing yourself out about it. If you just live in the now and accept that, okay, well, you know what? I got to do stuff. I got to figure this out. But right now, in order for me to do that, I need to rest. I need to sleep. I need to put my head on the pillow, go to sleep when the sun goes down, and then wake up as it rises. And then when I wake up, I'll be fresh. I'll have a new mind. I'll have a new set of eyes. I'll have my third eye open, all rested-eyed and ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, who's ever been
Bright
in a
eyes
situation?
and bushy tails.
Well, like, who's ever been in a situation where, like, say, like, oh, you need to go see the boss tomorrow. You're gonna have to go talk to the boss Monday, and it's like Friday, right?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And so then you sit there and all week, fucked up. Like, what do I fuck? And it progressively gets worse. And now it's like you're in this sense of dread. You're like, I'm fucked. I did something wrong. And then Monday comes around and it's something so just like, oh, hey, yeah, you need to go talk to, payroll or whatever because, they're missing some information. And
Or
it's like
like,
something so
Yeah.
stupid, and you're like,
They owe
I
you
just
money.
broke myself down. Yeah,
Yeah,
they owe you money.
on the
Yeah.
like on the flip side, you're because I've definitely been like in that situation where it's like, hey, on Monday, you've got a meeting with the manager or whatever, and like, yeah, all weekend you're like, oh shit, like this is it, and
Well, you
then
never think up. You always think down.
down, and then like you get
You
into
do.
and they get into the meeting and they're like, hey, we've really, we've really appreciated your performance. We want to give you a promotion. Like,
Yeah.
Or I mean, also on like another side of that, of like even if it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing at the end, but like I worked as a correctional officer. There was one time where I had a meeting with the warden that I didn't find out about till the morning of shift. And it was that afternoon, and I spent all day, and all I could think about was the fact that I had to go talk to the warden that afternoon. And like I am so lucky that nothing happened while I was on shift that day, because I was so focused on that one thing that me being that focused on my meeting and how that was going to go and what we were going to talk about put myself and my fellow officers in danger, because like if something had gone down, I would not have been able to react appropriately. Like I would have been
Absolutely.
so slow to react. Like I'm so lucky that nothing bad happened.
Well, not even that. You just put it into perspective on, like we said, like all these stanzas. It's like, don't just take them for like the words, like, you know, sleeping at night or whatever. Like you even said, like during the day, like if you're just sitting
Yeah.
there and your brain is like completely in like left field, you're not going to be able to focus on what is important.
You literally, in your own head, you just zombified yourself.
Yes, that is a great way to put
Or
that.
you're gonna, or
Yep.
like we said, it might be something just meaningless that you're worried about because you don't know, and then
Mhm.
now you put yourself in a position to make a mistake or an error that
Mhm.
now
Yeah.
you are going to be punished for.
Yeah, well, in that
Yeah.
stupid meeting, all it was that the warden was approving me changing from full time to part time. Like it was literally him just saying, "Hey, you're okay to go do this." Like that was it. That was all it was.
There you go.
Yeah, and I had been freaking out all day over it. It was so stupid, and it was so stupid to the point that it put people in danger. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
And how many times have we used that saying? Like I know we've all said it,
Oh
but
yeah.
how many times have people said, "We'll cross that bridge when we get there,"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right?
All the time.
Well,
All
I
the
think
like
time,
my
also,
you
motto
know?
this week.
I think we can also give any listener that's listening, if you were a supervisor or somebody that could potentially influence somebody or impact somebody's life, and you have some just pointless thing to say, just tell them what it's about before you talk to them, so they don't lose sleep
It's
over
that
the
easy.
weekend. Because Saturday is for the boys.
I do my best, okay?
Yeah, come on, Joey.
Well, I can't
I'm
always
leaving
plan the
them boys
time.
out to dry. All
All
right,
right.
Luke.
Well, I guess it circles around to me. So my first one is stanza 27. I'm using Crawford's Havamal from the Poetic Edda. It's best for a fool to keep his mouth shut amongst other people. No one will know he knows nothing if he says nothing. Ill-informed people are also the ones who don't know when to stop talking. So I really like this one because, being completely honest with myself, this used to be me. All right, like I used to just run my mouth all the fucking time, and I can't even count how many times it backfired on me. And over the last couple of years, it's made me learn, like, yeah, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't speak on it, because then you don't sound like a fucking idiot. And I think it shows a lot of, I think I've said this in a previous podcast, but I think it shows a lot of confidence to say, I'm not really sure about that, or I don't know enough about that to have an opinion on it. I think that shows a lot of confidence, and yeah,
It shows a lot of wisdom too, and it shows a lot of wisdom that you're able to take in experiences to learn.
Mhm.
You're willing to accept to be taught.
exactly.
Well, it's like, what do they say? The only dumb question is the question not asked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
like, and we've all seen it, especially in certain online outlets per se, where people will ask questions, and you get somebody that really doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. But boy, they're out there just fucking dropping paragraphs, and you're like, you typed so much
And said nothing.
and said so little. Yeah,
Yeah.
like literally, like, well, you know, I can tell you.
They use
I know
big,
there's a lot of
complex
different things.
words. Yeah.
Well, not even that.
A
I've
lot of
literally just seen
repetitives.
people be like, oh, what about the Norse afterlife? Like, well, there's a lot of different types, and it's like, so you don't?
Elaborate.
Would you like to? Would you
Yeah.
like to elaborate for this person that has a question, or are you just gonna be like, yeah, they be like that sometimes,
Yeah.
like,
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think also an important like other side of this is sometimes like there's gonna be times like Luke said that he used to be this person, but there's gonna be times where all of us we're gonna be that person who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know
Mhm.
what we're talking about, and we're gonna say something and we're not gonna know what we're talking about. And I think it's important for us to, when we realize that we've done that, to fucking admit it.
Mhm.
Admit that you were
yeah,
talking out your
absolutely.
ass and accept like own up to it, like own up to like, you know, I wasn't fully educated on this topic, I like some of my information may have been inaccurate. Like when you're wrong, admit it,
Yeah.
because you like if you
Yep.
know you're wrong and you keep grinding that point because you just don't want to be embarrassed, especially something like if it's a discussion where you're trying to help a newcomer, whether it be to a religion or a career field or in a class. And if you're wrong and you refuse to admit it, you're setting them up for failure as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I think that as well shows a lot of integrity and a lot of self confidence to be like, oh, my bad, I got it wrong. You know, I apologize. I'll, you know, take that on or whatever. Instead of being like, no, 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 no. It's definitely what I said. You know, like it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Stay humble.
Or
yeah, exactly.
or if
Stay
somebody
humble.
calls you out, yeah, if somebody else calls you out, like, don't get all fucking poopy because you've been called out. I mean, sometimes people will fucking call you out in a douchebag way. Like, you know, everybody's been there where you're like, okay, bro, did you have to do it like that?
Mm,
Yeah.
You know, to an
Yeah.
extent, if somebody calls you out, like, hey, like, you did this or you said this, I think you're wrong. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You
you're right.
know,
Yeah, either like,
yeah.
oh yeah, you're
Then
right,
just take it like
or
that.
either like if it's like unequivocal whether like they're right and you're wrong, be like, yeah, you're right, or like, you know, okay, well let's have a discussion about it. You know, like
Or
Yeah. And that's
once again,
mm,
flip that. Oh, Cody.
well, that was just a little tidbit. That's something that's going to happen a lot when it comes to just heathenry in general, because there's so many different ways practice. There's so many different ways to the mythology. There's bound to be some sort of confliction with everything. So to me, that just leads into it perfectly. You have to be able to admit if you're wrong and when you're wrong, and be able to. You have to use everything as a learning process. Just being stubborn and being, no, my way is important.
yeah. Well, do we?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the one thing I was gonna say too is just like when you find somebody in that situation, sometimes it might not be them trying to be an ass. They might literally be uninformed. They were
Yeah,
told something growing up or in their life or by somebody that they held to a high regard. You know, that's why it is like a fucking toxic cycle. Is like if you don't know shit and you start fucking teaching somebody, now they don't know shit, and then it's just this whole lineage of people that don't know shit. Like, but they're still out there just like preaching. It's like sometimes you need to be able to be like, be that person to pull them aside and be like, you're an
Yeah, and I
idiot.
like how you said that, to pull them aside, because like I think that especially like if you know that they're wrong or you think that they're wrong, I think it's important that you say something, but do it in a respectful manner. Like, if it's something that can be handled off to the side, you don't have to, like, embarrass them, then do it that way. Because, like, there's no point
Yeah.
in making matters worse just because someone's uneducated or something like that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll.
And you know what? At the same time, depending on the situation, I usually like to feel like, is it really worth my time? Like, is this going to be an argument? Is it worth it to prove that you're wrong?
Yeah, pick your fight.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
But yeah, well, I guess we'll circle back around to everyone's second. Starting with Joey.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This your topic there actually lands quite nicely with my second one. Stanza 31, still out of Jackson Crawford's Havamal from the Poetic Edda. A man may seem wise if he pokes fun at another when the other man is away. But the man who talks behind another man's back is a fool, even if his listeners laugh. Man, I'm all up for some smack talking, right? And, you know, being a Canadian hockey fan, there's lots of smack talking to be going around. But I like it definitely when it's face to face and you have that other person being able to jaw back at you. But when you're definitely having to say shit behind people's back, and you know what, we're all just as guilty. I'm not perfect. I've said my fair share of shit behind people's backs too, right? But you know, the more I've always read this stanza, to be honest, the more guilt I felt, you know, because there's people that talk garbage behind my back too, right? And let's be realistic. We don't want to ruin someone's reputation because we want to make them the butt end of a joke. Right. We still want to show people a lot of respect. And this is something that I think is preached in almost any and every religion. Right. Treat others with respect. You know, you don't need to put them down. We're all different. We all do things differently. We all think differently. We all approach situations differently. So just having a big party and saying, oh, you know, that person's shit because, you know, look at what he posted or look at what this person did or look at what this person said, you know, there's no reason to, you know, take that character away from them. So.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but like if you call somebody out on something and it's like clearly like something that like you've identified, like, okay, like oh, that guy doesn't know how to tie his shoes. Like, what an idiot. And you got your shoes tied. It's like, well, like, why don't you fucking teach him how to tie his shoes instead of just coming around
Exactly.
and talking shit about his ass to everybody, you know?
Yeah, like if you can see somebody that needs help, if you know something that somebody doesn't and they're struggling with it, help them. But you know what? You also don't know that person's full story, right? Maybe there's a reason why they can't tie their shoes. Maybe they're missing fingers and you're looking at them from behind or something. Who knows, right? You don't know that. So you just always just assume innocence, right? The best as you can.
Well, and even like you're talking about like you just mentioned like someone who's like it's just like a thing that happens. But I remember when I was in junior high, my mother, because girls we like to gossip, right? Like that's just everyone knows.
Yeah, y'all be talking.
But I remember when I was in
Yeah,
I remember when I was in junior high,
biggest mudslingers around.
My mom told me, she's like, if you have a problem with someone, like take care of that problem with them. Don't be going and telling your friends. Don't be going and like talking to your siblings and your parents about it. Like obviously you're gonna vent to your friends and stuff when things go wrong. But if you have a legitimate problem with
venting
someone,
is different.
yeah, take it up with them and don't be like embarrassing them, because if you bring your problem to other people, so if you start talking shit about one person, like say like just for an example, say Luke and I got in this fight and I was fucking talking crap about him to everyone in this, like to all of the people, right? And then 2 weeks later, Luke and I like figure our shit out and we're like on good terms, but then everybody else already has those other opinions formed because of the shit that I said, and now he has problems with everybody else too.
Yeah.
And it's not resolved between them, even though whatever's happened between us is resolved. Now there's this whole secondary problem that's not gonna fix itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, exactly, right? You've already painted him in a negative light, So now it's up to now all of a sudden it's up to him to try and repaint that picture, and that's not really fair for that person's character, right?
Right.
Also, I
Kind of
think
like
it.
Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think it says more about the person like telling things about other people behind their back. I think it tells more about the person who's like doing that than like whatever they might be saying about the person, because it's like, you know, if they're talking about someone else behind their back, they're definitely talking about you behind your back, you know. So it's like
Yeah,
you
and you know,
kind
it
of,
shows a lot of insecurity too, right?
yeah, no, 100%.
Absolutely, and you know, and at the end of the day, it can still become, you know, it's still a form of bullying and harassment.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, that and like, what image do you promote yourself at? You know, everybody wants to live honorably,
Mm-hmm.
you know, live a decent life, and you know, you might go and sit there and talk shit, and people are like, and then it's like, fucking dick.
Well,
Like,
yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, I'm sorry. Sometimes things are funny. Like if you say something, it's like, it's funny, but it's like, yeah, he might say some things
Yeah.
that are fucking funny, but I don't.
It does remind me too, this stanza a little bit about uh in the Christian Bible, right? About being the one to cast the first stone who hasn't sinned or who's never sinned or
Yeah,
something like that, right? So the way I also like to read this stanza is shut the fuck up. Your shit stinks too.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
don't act like your shit don't stink. You know, you fucked up. You're not perfect.
Well, yeah, and like going back to, you know, briefly what I said about like it says more about the person. It's like I'd rather be the person, and you know, like again, I'm not perfect. I've slipped up. I've you know I've done this
Oh yeah.
myself. But like I like with people who I'm like really close to, like people in like my like close circle, every single person that I like, you know, that is close to me, they all know where they stand with me, because I don't do that shit. If I have a problem with someone, I'll be like, hey, you know, I hit it, I address it, like head on.
That's right. Yeah, it's so I don't know. To me, it's just a very powerful stanza, and it's a very universal stanza to me as well. So
Nah,
I
that's it.
it's one that you know, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm just as guilty. But it is a stanza that the last year I have or actually last 2 years I've really focused on trying to be a lot better as a human being with that stanza.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Caity, do we want to jump into your second one?
Oh yeah, sure. So again, I'm using the Bellows translation because I'm the odd one out here.
Mm-hmm.
So in my translation, it's verse 146, but if you're using the Jackson Crawford translation, it's verse 145. And it says, "Better no prayer than too big an offering. By thy getting measure thy gift. Better is none than too big a sacrifice. So Thund of old wrote, ere man's race began, where he rose on high, when home he came." And the first part of that is what I want to focus on. So it's talking about how, that's the way I read it, about how like it is better to not pray to the gods and not ask them for things if you're going to ask too much. It's better to not give an offering if you're going to give too big of a sacrifice. And we talk about this in the server with newcomers all the time about
Mm-hmm.
they'll come in and they want to spend all this money on an altar, and they want to just have like the most expensive offerings and like give offerings every day all the time. And you don't need that. I mean, if you can afford that and you want to do that, like you do you, boo boo. But it's not necessary. It's not something that you need to do. Like, I mean, like my altar is literally 3 candles and an offering bowl, and I usually for offerings I go buy those little cheap shot bottles, and like that's what I do. So like it's not something that has to be big, and it's if you're doing something big just for it to be big, it loses its meaning. Like the intention behind it changes.
Yeah.
So if you're doing an offering to do an offering and to like either ask the gods for something or to give thanks to the gods, like focus on the purpose behind your offering and behind your prayer rather than like what you're giving them.
Right.
Like this is something private between you and the gods. This isn't some bragging point. No one needs to know that you got the fucking cheap ass meat over the bottle that costs $200. Like no one needs to know that. Like it's not anyone else's business. This isn't Instagram. We're not doing this for show. I mean, if you're doing this for show, I have my own opinions about that. But like we are here to practice the way that we're going to practice, and it doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be all this extra stuff.
Yeah. So
Well,
what you were just saying about the like, like it doesn't have to be like big and elaborate, and like it doesn't have to be like the most expensive. It reminds me of one of the other stanzas, and apologize, I can't remember exactly what number it is, but it's basically where Odin is talking about how it's important to give little gifts as well as big gifts. And he says, I've won many a friend with half a loaf of bread and a bowl of soup.
I have that bookmarked right now.
Yeah.
I can read that real quick. Hold on.
And
That
that just
stanza. Sorry, you can finish.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, I just think it related to like what we're like what that it kind of ties in.
Yeah.
Oh, that
So I
ties
kind of
in.
wanted
That
to.
ties in absolutely beautiful, right? And honestly, the biggest thing you could always do is based on the size of your purpose and your intent. Everything you do is within your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need to be a big physical measure, right? Your actions are measured more than you are with fancy things, words, stuff like that.
Exactly.
well, also it's like if okay, oh man, like things are going really rough in my life right now. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna make this grand offering to the gods, to improve my life. So I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy a $250 bottle of liquor or whatever to offer to. Now I can't pay my power bill,
Mm-hmm.
or I can't pay my car payment, so I can't make my car gets repoed or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, don't ask for too much, because also when you ask for too much, it's like, hey, like the gods pick and choose when they want to offer any type of assistance or intervention or anything. But also, like we said, it's like this isn't the how many people do you think have sat there and said like, oh, why does bad things happen to good people? Because guess what, some of it fucking does. So I
Yeah.
don't sit there and be like, hey, like whatever. I have a family member that's got terminal cancer. Like, make them stay alive. Like, well, like sometimes when you ask for big things, you get big letdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yep.
don't ask for too much to put yourself in the chance of being let down very hard, and also don't give too much to the point that now you put yourself into strife.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, so the verse that Luke was referencing is 52, which talks about giving gifts to friends. And I think also that's like an important thing to keep in mind with the gods is that like you are essentially like not in the same way that the Christians think about it, but you're essentially building a relationship with whatever god you're giving an offering to. And intention, like think about it, if your friend gives you a gift and they give it to you because they feel like they should give you a gift, and they give you like $300 watch, like yeah, you're gonna be grateful, but like it's like okay, like that's cool. But if you have a friend who fucking spends all night making you a gift,
Mm-hmm.
and it only costs them $20 to make it, but they spent all that time and that like they had that intention behind it. Or if it's something that's like, oh, I saw this and I thought of you, like that means so much more. And I think it's the same way with the gods, like your intention behind it of, oh, like I took the time and I thought about this to give this to you, like that means so much more. There's so much more behind it.
Absolutely. And I like the way you said that too, at the intention, because, anybody with children will definitely understand that. Is
Yeah.
how many times have you come home and your child's come home and, hey, Dad, look at this really cool rock. wow, I saw this rock, and I want to give you this rock. Like, it's so cool. You know, you appreciate things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't yell at your kid for that. You don't punish your kid for that. And and your kid had the right intent to honor you by giving you that rock that they wanted to give you as a gift, and that was just something very small, and yet so very powerful because they were thinking of you.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing about children is like children see like adults tend to see like dollar sign. You know,
Yeah,
oh, you got me this, but you didn't get me like the best thing. Or isn't this nice? It costs so much money, and you're like, I hate this. You
Yeah.
know,
yeah.
but children, it's literally like this made an impact on me, and I like this, and I want you to have it. And it's like that right there is like that carries the weight of the world on it.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Yeah. No, that was a really good one, Katie. Good job.
A plus.
Cody, do we need to circle back around to you, or are you good?
Okay. So I chose for my second one 30, stanza 36 or 37. Basically, they kind of go hand in hand, and of course, it's again projected properly. Translation. Stanza 36. It's better to have a home, even if it's little. Everyone should call someone, somewhere, sorry, home. Even if you own just two goats beneath a faulty roof, that's still better than begging. And then stanza 37. Better to have a home, even if it's little. Everyone should call somewhere home. Your heart will be wounded if you have to beg for every meal from somebody else. So basically, the reason I chose that one is because of the situation that I'm kind of in. Way. I got out of the military, and instead of being able to just immediately buy a house, you couldn't do that because living right over expensive. And with that being said, I'm still living with my folks. I moved back in with my folks, and I'm paying rent, but it's still a house. Still something over my head until I can actually, improve my life. It's taken a while, but all that matters is that you have something. You're not out there begging for every meal like it says in there. You're not out there not trying. As long as you're trying, as long as you have something, it's better than nothing. And I think that's why I like that one the best.
Yeah.
You don't need that brand new fancy car. You don't need as long as you got something to get you from point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like, yeah, be grateful for what you have, kind of thing, and like, everyone. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people will be like, man, I wish I had, like this big house, and, I wish I had a freaking Ferrari and like all this. And it's like, you've got a roof over your head, you've got a vehicle that can take you from point A to point B, and, you have a reliable, like, source of food. You can get up and go to the pantry and have you know, a near infinite like
Macaroni and
selection,
cheese.
a near infinite selection of food. Like you think like back in historical times, like again like Viking Age, before Bronze Age, stuff like that. If you went out hunting and you didn't like manage to like kill any animals, then like you didn't have any food for that day. Try again tomorrow. So it's like, yeah, like be grateful for what you have, even if it's like very little.
Yeah, and that old saying too is like home is where you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Home can be anywhere, right? For me, like I work on the road. Sure, you can say this little tiny dorm I'm in right now. This is my home. Well, kinda. It's my work home. Sure, it's home, but it's for work. Oh, it's not home. For me, home is back home with my wife and my child. To me, that's home. When I'm with them, I'm home. If they were here with me, I'd be home. with them.
Yeah.
So, and that is something that I'm always and forever truly grateful for. And that's something I will never, ever take for granted, because home is one of the most powerful places you could always be. And then you always want to do your best to take care of that as well. And always know that you can have more. You just have to take care of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's
Well, I
like
mean,
that old saying, just quickly, Puck. It's like that old saying, home is where the heart is.
Yep.
yeah. Well, I mean, and we live in a world where everything is just, we've become so fixated, and the world's become so fixated on more, and it's like, I can't just have a cell phone. I need the newest cell phone. I need this or I need that, and we forget that it's like, even if all that shit's gone, do you have a home? Do you have food? Do you have what you need? There's a difference between what we need and what we want.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think that, um, like, sometimes we're not always, like, let's be honest, we're not always gonna be grateful to just have the bareness. Like, there's gonna be days where we're like, This fucking sucks." But I think that making the best of wherever you're at, so when I was a kid, my after my mother's second marriage ended, we were essentially homeless. We had nowhere to go. And we were crashing at one of her friend's house, and I will forever be grateful for the way that my mom made that little bedroom that we were all sharing like a home.
Yeah.
Because she put in the effort to fucking make it feel that way. Like, just putting in that little bit of effort to make things just a little bit better. Like, it goes such a long ways. Especially when you're in like a shitty situation. Like, everyone's gonna be in a shitty situation at some point in their life. And to put in
Yep.
that effort, like whether it be for you or for whoever else is with you through that, like it's gonna make such a big difference.
Well, I think this stanza can be applied just directly to your life, regardless of your life as a home. It's like
Hmm.
your life might
Yeah.
not be this dream life or what you see, what you think people have by looking at Instagram and seeing these people's life through a lens, but like your life can always be considerably worse. And if you just sit there and you want to play a pity party and look at only the bad things in your life, like, then your life's only going to be bad. But if you stop and you look and you go, well, I got this, and this, like, at least I've got that. Like, at least I got both my legs. Like,
You know what?
Yeah.
And the way you said that is so true. I'm going to go down this rabbit hole little slightly more here. Someone has just recently come into my life, and he was telling me the story of his life. We saw this big picture of this big map, and I said, "Hey, show me the country you're from, right?" So he showed me this country where he's from, and he's like, "Yeah, I lived in this." He's like, "I'm from this country, but I lived in this country." He's like, "But then the government started fighting with my country, so they're saying anybody who's from that country has to go back." So he's like, "Well, I can't go back to my country because then I'm just gonna get put into the military, and then I got to start fighting my friends."
Mm.
He's like, so what he did is he left his country, he left his kinsmen, he left his family, like him and a whole bunch of other people, and then they just started traveling all the way south down to a far different country. Like, they literally went from one side of a continent all the way down to the other side, and it took them 40 days or 35 days or something like that. And he swam for days, he hiked through mud forests, he had to sleep in trees. In one country, they were arrested and detained for like 6 days or something like that, and then like, okay, you can go now. We can't keep you, but you
Hmm.
just can't stay here. So to think of something like that, then just to hear like a story like that, um, it's not really hurt. You don't really hear that in Western media outlets at all. But something like you just nailed it there, Puck. Somebody always has it maybe a little bit more worse off. So
well, dude, like,
so when I feel like my life is so rough, you know what? I'm happy that I met this person, because after hearing his story the other day, man, that just completely humbled me.
yeah, Like people forget, like, especially depending on where you're from, like people have it rough.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. You know what though, and it's true too. With that stanza, you can look at it as be grateful for that. Um, but you can't always, like it says there, right? It's better than to have to beg for every meal from someone else. Always still strive to do better, right? So
exactly.
Definitely.
you can still get that Ferrari. You just got to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to
Exactly.
rise early.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 from Mr. Puck Nasty.
Gotcha. So once again, from the eloquent Dr. Jackson Crawford, Havamal from the Poetic Edda. So I'm going with stanza 48. Kind, brave people live best. They never nurture a grudge. It's unwise to spend your life worrying, dreading your responsibilities. And to me, this one is just, mind your business. Like, mind your business and let shit roll off. Like, I mean, if you find yourself in a situation where somebody like just fucking like fucks you up for that day, it's okay to be pissed about, bad situation or whatever. But like the way I look at it is like I've had days where shitty because of somebody else, right? And then I get home and now I still have that weight on my shoulders. And I'm just pissed, right? And now I'm making my family's day shitty, and now they're mad. So then my day is shitty at home, right? And you sit there and you think about it, and it's like you let the situation just tear you down, and you're just holding on to this shit, and you're holding on to this anger, right? And whatever the fuck or whoever the fuck caused this issue in your life, they're probably big chilling at the house, having a good old time with their family because they don't care, right? You know, if you hit that situation in your life and you just continuously dwell on it, or even in the instance of just, you get people that come to work and they're like so angry that they're trapped in a job or something. It's like, dude, like we talked about in the last stanza, like, do you have what you need? Does this provide for you? Well, yeah, but I'm unsatisfied. Well, then go find something better or accept life and continue on.
Yeah, and I think on that too, like, you're letting that person, or whatever, that situation, but more so that person, like, control you. Now, instead of you being in control of your own life, this person has, at least, a small part of control over you because, like Puck said, they're, at home, big chilling. They're not thinking about you, but you're spending all this time thinking about them. And a perfect example on, like, the last thing that Puck said, like, yeah, if you come home from your job every day and you're shitty and you're just in a shitty mood all the time, and then, like, your wife and your kids are, like, getting pissed off at you because you're angry all the time, like, you gotta leave. Like, I did that, like, a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago. I quit my job because I hated it, and I'm unemployed now, which is unfortunate, but, like, I'm happier. I'm not stressed out every day. I'm not upset and angry every day. Yeah, so you just gotta, like,
Well,
let stuff go too.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, and if you're going to be
even
holding grudges, right? You don't win. You end up exhausting yourself
Mm.
by putting all this unnecessary energy into something that it just doesn't matter. Just let it go. Let it go. You
well, like
can't
even
change what's happened. You can't change that person. All you can do is change how you react, and you can change the outcome that way. You can change and choose to move on and to move past it.
well, and it's even like everybody's heard of people in situations where, like, okay, say even in like a relationship or something, right? somebody, an ex or whatever, did something. Sorry, my allergies are beating me up again. So you had an ex did something, right? Had some type of bad habit, and then you get away from that. Now you're in a new relationship, and now you carry that same thing over, and you're like holding those grudges, and you're like, you're, and to speak about bravery is like, you're not brave enough to move forward and just accept like the new, right? And then you just keep
Well, that's
reverting
just
back.
it, right? Grudges inhibit you from moving forward. Grudges
Exactly.
keep you in one spot at all times.
Yep. And I mean, like, honestly, let's think about it. If someone if they did something like that to you, like horrible enough for you to, like, that you want to keep a grudge, like, it's that irritating. Like, does that person even deserve that attention from you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they obviously fucked up in some way or another. Like, even if it wasn't even that big of a deal, like, in hindsight, like, they don't deserve that energy from you. And, like, also, like how Puck was talking at the beginning, like, was it a bad day? Like, did you have a bad day, or did you have a bad 10 minutes that you turned into a bad day? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've definitely
And
been in
again,
that
that's
situation where literally, like,
unnecessary.
well, you ever just been like cut off, like, whatever, like you're just kind of like in a mood that day, like you get cut off in traffic, and then for like hours you was like, that motherfucker, and you're just like, man, like, and it's like it's gone and over with. Like, it was an insignificant event that you have just put like 1,000,000 pounds of weight inside.
Yeah, well, I think too,
Yeah.
like, a lot of people say, like, oh, I'm so stressed out, I've got so much stress, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of it is, like, unnecessary stress. Like, I think, like, if you just, like, let shit go and don't hold, like, I mean, like, I know it's hard, but, like, if you don't hold grudges, or, like, you get caught in traffic and then, like, once the traffic jam clears and you're on your way again, just, like, let it go. Like, I think, like, there'd be so much, like, people would be, like, at least 50% less stressed if they just, like, let shit go and didn't, like, make a, a mountain out of an anthill kind of a situation,
Yeah.
Well,
well, and then
if
people
people
stress
fall, if
about the
people
fact
fall
that they're
bum,
stressed.
Yeah.
Like, how dumb is that? That people stress about the fact that they're stressed.
Well, yeah.
I fucking stress because I'm like, God damn, why can't I just be happy and have a good day? Fuck this, like.
And then, yeah, it creates its own, like, cycle. But I think we'll go in, wrap it up with my second Havamal stanza here, which is stanza 71. A limping man can ride a horse, a handless man can herd, a deaf man can fight and win. It's better even to be blind than fuel for the funeral pyre. What can a dead man do? Now, to me, this is like been everything to me for like the last like 12 months. It's like, to me, it's basically like get up and make something of your life. Like, no matter what the fuck you got going on, like, you can still strive to be better. You can still, like, get out of that comfort zone, try that new thing that you wanted to do, be, like, better yourself as a person. So, like, for me, and I know we've talked about this, like, hundreds of times on the podcast, but we'll whip that dead horse a little bit more. Like, myself, like, like 12 months ago, I was just, like, kind of accepted my lot in life, like, oh, I've got this, like, vision, I'm visually impaired, I'm legally blind. It's all those things that it'd be cool to do, but, like, it's not realistic because, of my vision. And then, like, I mean, finding the faith has been definitely a major, major contributor. But, like, now, I'm like, you know what, I really want to try Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Let's go sign up to, a class and do a couple classes and see how we go. Like it says in that thing, it's better even to be blind than to be fuel for the funeral pyre. It's just like, and it goes back to what we were saying before, like, everyone's got it worse. So it's like, realistically in the modern day, like, there's like no excuses to like better yourself, no matter like what you're going
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Agreed with that, 100%. You nailed it right on the head. It's like it doesn't matter what you are, or like what condition you have in life. You know, we're all not perfect, but you know what? You're not useless.
Well, and it's like we talked about. Is like don't let your disabilities or your limitations or anything like define you. Like that is not you. That might be a portion of you, but that's not you. You know. But as soon as you sit there and go, well, I'm blind, and just throw yourself on the ground and be like, can't do shit, like
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
so I was actually looking at that, and if you look at, because you did stanza 71, if you look at stanza 70, better to be alive no matter what than dead. Only the living enjoy anything. I saw a rich man's house, but it was on fire, and he lay dead outside the door.
Exactly.
Like you're alive. Like
Hmm.
only the living can experience. No matter what you have going on in your life, no matter what, there's something that brings you joy. There's things you experience, and you're actually just in general, you're able to perceive life and the world and fucking everything.
Yeah. Grab it by the balls. Like,
Fucking both hands.
yeah. Well, like, there's this, I can't
I think you're
remember.
supposed to say by the horns.
Yeah. Um, you know, depends what you're into.
Politically
Um,
accurate.
yeah, I think,
I thought you were.
well, there's, I can't remember who said it, but there's basically, and this is like a big thing that, like, kicked me along too, of, like, a guy explained, he's like, imagine at the end of your life, you're, like, lying on your deathbed or whatever, and there's a bunch of, like, ghosts in the room. And every ghost is an opportunity that you could have pursued, but you didn't, you know? And he's like, with some people, it's like a crowded, like the room is like, there's not even any standing room at the moment. There's so many of these ghosts. And the guy was like, I want to be on my deathbed and I don't want to see any ghosts, you know? Like, I want to, like, even if it didn't pan out or, like, you fail or, you know, it didn't succeed or whatever, like, at least you took the opportunity, you tried something, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like if your life flashed before your eyes and it was like a movie, how
Hmm.
boring would the fucking movie be? Or
Exactly,
would it
yeah.
be a good movie?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that wraps us up. That was really good. I really enjoyed everyone's everyone's stanzas. It was some really good conversations. Um, yeah, so thanks for watching, everyone, guys. We will link everybody's social medias down below. If you guys want to follow us on other platforms, and we will see you in the next Hanging with the Heathens.
Yeah, go get the Havamal if you don't have it.
Yeah, read the
That was
Havamal.
poetic.
Yeah.